What's cracking, guys? Shout out Honda Vlogs. Wrench Life here. Just going over this vehicle. I got this towed in here. The symptom for when it got towed in here, the customer heard a metallic noise. It lost power on the highway, a lot of smoke. Pulled over immediately. Went to go to restart the vehicle, and when it got brought over to me, I tried to start it over, and I was hearing that it was spinning a little bit too fast, as if it had like a dead skip in it. So that's a good way to diagnose something. Crank the engine and actually listen here. If you get that chug to chug, chug to chug, chug to chug, it was just kind of like whizzing. It was whizzing between the cranking cycles. So I straight up went to check the compression on the cylinder. So I jumped, I'll show you a video here where I jumped from cylinder number 3, because when I pulled the plugs out, I noticed cylinder 3 was really wet, and this is what we saw. So hooked up to cylinder number 3. We'll crank the engine here. F it, dude. It's got the worst cluster I've ever seen in a car. As you can hear, it's just a clean whine. Just like I thought. 0 PSI. Dead cylinder. We don't know if it's in the top end, bottom end. We're gonna be yanking that out anyways. Shits, we got the next cylinder. So we could hear 5 distinct revolutions at do-do-do. So we are building compression on this cylinder. So as long as it's in the green, as long as they're somewhat all even between them, is what I care about. I don't too hot to be rolling cars around in this weather. So I got the car here, I got the hood up. I'm gonna, off camera, I'm gonna probably take that cover off here, get the car jacked up. I'm gonna drain the oil, and I'm gonna drain the antifreeze. My broke ass is probably gonna save the antifreeze. And yeah, I'll start there. Before anything, I got that cowl off and the frontal rad support antler thing. The grill, upper grill dingles, these things were Allen bolts. All you had to do, pull it apart, and then you could get to the secret bolt that's right here by my middle finger. One of them guys. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna swing this off over here. This guy was a little bit of a chore. You're gonna have to take off this cowl piece. Ignore my shadow. There'll be like 1, 2, and 3 little push clips. They broke on me, so looks like a zip tie is gonna fix that. And then what I did with this piece, I took off my wiper blades. I don't think you need to. There's that panel here. I stuck my little fork antler tool and pulled this off. And then I did the same thing that way, pushing it in and then pulled off as a unit. Underneath you'll see this big metal tray. You'll have 10 mils. One here, you'll need long extension here, another one here, another one here, another one there. After those out, you'll have 2 14 mils. Sorry, 2 12 mils. 2 there, 2 there. Once those are out, you got to give it a good little shake and then it'll pull out. Usually a pry, but once that's out, we'll clear up all the room we need to work on and get to the back hoses and all that. So, I'm going to still do some work before up top. I knew I said I was going to drain the coolant and oil and stuff like that, but I want to start labeling my wires, taking everything off, and then I'll go from there. I'm just kind of doing this as I go, because I need to get this done. Here I am now. I skipped some steps, so sue me. Airbox is out. I am so black. I should turn this around on me. I'm freaking black. Hashtag blacked. What am I talking about here with all this black talk? I started taking off the wiring. Everything that's kind of up top I've been labeling as I went. So this kind of went all down here. Coolant sensors, O2 sensors, secondary O2 sensors. I don't know if that's a knock or an oil pressure sensor, one of those, and the bottom one's probably crank sensor. That's all out. Injectors up here are all out. We're going to have the starter below. That's going to kind of suck, but dropping the exhaust down. This little one, the coil pack connector, I didn't label these because they're all in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. After the alternator, unplug the alternator, slide this one out. This little thing was giving me problems. Focus. So this little holder holds this 90 right here. So this 90 kind of clips in like that. I'm not clipped in, so don't make fun of me. But if you want to slide this whole wiring out, slide it this way to the right, and then it unhooks, and you can fold it away, do whatever. My plan is to keep the transmission where it is, and then with the engine, we're gonna probably slide it open this much over to because we got to clear the converter. With an automatic, you could do this. Manual transmission, you'll probably have to take the tranny out or drop it at the bottom. But I'm trying to inch it this way and then up and out. But we're gonna keep on trucking with this and see where we go. This is where we're wrapping up for today. Got the I forgot I took the front bumper off because the bottom trays are already gone. The inside trays are off. So all it was a Phillips screw right here. And if your car has fog lights, take off the fog light connector, but mine didn't, so that came off super easy. The reason I did that is so I could get that much more space, just because my hoist is sketchy. And I also took off the AC. I didn't disconnect the lines because I don't want to recharge the system. I'm trying to do this cheap as possible. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4 12mm bolts, pretty long ones, but that comes out. We're going to hang that out of the way. Power steering, we should do the same. I'll see when I get to it because it's on like the bottom of like down there. So we get to there, we're going to get to there. Wiring swung out, and yeah. So we got the wiring that goes from the injectors, MAF. Underneath here you're going to have the VTEC oil, and a big white connector, I think. So VTEC underneath it will be, I think, so VTEC, one's a VTEC oil sensor, one's a VTEC solenoid, and then it's going to go down to this big white connector. Don't ask me what it does, I don't know. The biggest trouble we're probably going to have is these stupid little green clips right here. Focus. They're just going to end up breaking or snapping or giving you problems, but once that's out, swing it all out. The power steering's the next thing here. So you see the high pressure line, I believe it is. There's one 10mm that kind of tabs it to the back. I'm going to swing that out. What my goal is to bring the power steering up on the engine, and then take the take the lines out. I'll have to buy a fluid, but I'll take the lines out, leave the power steering on the block, and then once it's out, we can transfer it over to our next engine. Not sure if I went over getting the starter bolts out. We're right where the starter is on the bottom of the engine. You'll see this intake support manifold bracket. We'll have 2 10mm here and 2 12mm. You gotta need to get that out to get to the starter bolts. The starter has one top long bolt here. This one was giving me trouble. That's a 14mm. And they'll have a smaller 14. It's not in here because it's lost somewhere in the car. We're gonna find that later. And you're gonna have that small 14mm. And once those are two out, the starter will come out through, well, I can't see shit, through this hole, and let me see if I get the lighting there. Starter will come out through here, and that way you can pull it out. After the starter's out, you'll have enough room to get to the inspection plate cover. So you'll have 1, 2, 3 10mm there. And after you get those on, you'll see the torque converter bolts. I'll show you on the other engine. The torque converter, that's where the transmission is, bolts to this on the flex plate. Again, you're going to be going through that inspection cover hole. There'll be 8 10mm bolts. So what you'll do is you'll take off whichever one you can, then stick your 19mm on the crank, spin over the engine, take out the next one, and repeat that 8 times until they're all out. Fun. Quick update, we got the tranny bolts out. I'll show you these ones over here. I got a little template. So looking at the trans from above the car, you're going to have 2 up top. One on the side. This one I just used a 17mm wrench. This one I used a shallow socket and then a 3-inch extension. Then I was able to get it out. These 3 were at the bottom. The 2 easy ones to get, and this one was from the starter. That's when you're underneath the car looking this way. That's why I use cardboard, piece of cardboard to do that. Next thing to do is once you get your hoist all hooked up, I'm going to have to rearrange the car because my hoist is actually above me. It's a chain one. We got the top mount, which I'm going to do very last. You got to do something about the transmission because it's going to sag out, so you could put a block underneath it, another jack. I'm going to try probably wrapping a chain around that cross member and hanging it for the time being because I need to push the car in neutral to get it centered here. And there's also one engine mount. I'd call it more of a torque mount. If you guys could see that little guy here. So the bolts, I've just got them out. There'll be these 2 17mm right there. You don't need to jack up the car or nothing to do that, so that's loose. I'll find a box for these. And yeah, I've got to play a whole lot of son of a bitch. Yeah, so I'll get back to you when I got the chain and stuff all hooked up. Boys, you just missed the biggest rage quit, but the engine's finally out. I got this whole goddamn mess right here. What happened was this converter snout got seized up right into that where the center of this flex plate is, and it ended up pulling the converter out of the transmission, and then it's sort of pissing ATF all out. I'm gonna just double check, make sure it's coming from the back of the converter and I didn't crack the converter or the case, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Gonna clean that up, clean this up, take a break and get back to it because I'm walking in freaking dog shit here. What you want to do, last step before you fire the new motor back in, you'll notice that there'll be two dowels. In this case, the dowel stayed with the transmission, right here and right here. Give these a light sand, same with the snout. Give those a light sand. Then you can put a small amount of grease. I usually use Vaseline, like a thin grease, and it'll help guide the new engine in. As you can see, the two dowels are on the transmission, none on my engine, but my new engine has one dowel in place. Remember to take off this dowel. You can just grab it with a vice grip and a hammer, but that'll ruin your whole day if you put the engine in and then realize you still got a dowel sticking out and the engine won't mate with the tranny. So I'm going to do a tune-up on this. I got brand 4 new spark plugs, transfer over the alternator, get this one all dressed. Yeah, nothing's ever easy, man. Nothing's ever easy. Dressing the new motor, and there's a good look at what happened. It looked like the rod bearing spun off at this bolt. Looked like it sheared the bolt too, so I guess the rod bearing went, spun the bearing, and then the main cap blew off, which tossed the rod right through the block. And as you can see, the dipstick still to that secondary hole right here. Because it had oil in it, which is weird, but yeah, that's what happens, I guess. Old, new, old, new, old. Step, took our alternator, transferred over. We're going to also be transferring over our power steering pump. We got, looks like one 12 mil and another one down there, so 2 of those. And we'll transfer that over to the new engine. Just like that, the power steering is in. Alright, so just like that, we're going to just make sure every bracket is transferred, all of these ones, make sure that's all on your old engines looking like your new engine. Look around about how dirty that is and how clean this one is. I believe we're going to be leaving our coils off till the end. We're going to hook our transfer chain over. Then once that's all set, we're going to be ready to drop the new engine back into the chassis. So much progress on the Honda. Got everything underneath done. The starter, the torque converter bolts, the wiring. I hate that stuff on this vehicle. It's so AIDS. Got the bell housing bolts together. They are kind of hard, but once the dowel slipped in, and we just kind of worked a bolt in all corners, kind of worked them in evenly, and that kind of lined everything up. So that's good. Yeah, just slowly doing everything right now. That's coming together. Gonna be changing the oil. They got new plugs in it. Power steering fluid, we're using this kind of stuff right here. That's for Hondas. Hondas use a thinner stuff. I know a lot of people say you could use transmission fluid. For like domestics, Toyotas, sure, that's cool. Hondas, for some reason, all run this like slicker type of oil that seems a little bit thinner. So I got ID Mitsu power steering fluid. I got that. I'm gonna change out the serpentine belt while I'm in there. So I got an OE Bando. Hey, Bando. And then got some synthetic 530 liquid moly, the good stuff. So spend money where you can and cheap out where you can. Got everything buttoned up minus the windshield cowl and stuff like that. I'm going to do that when I back it out and fill the coolant. I was going to add some coolant in right now. I only added a little bit, but I guess because of the angle, that thing takes a 90 into the radiator. It's just not wanting to drink. So I believe I got everything on there. Let's actually do a first crank. None of that scripted-ish. Wow, that ain't good. It wasn't starting, and I think I know why. On the side part here, I'll show you. This is actually a ground, and I had no idea. Turns out I just left off one 10 mil, so that screwed up my whole day. But it's on this thing, and where I showed you the Ozaka right here, and that is an engine ground. I am an idiot. I take full responsibility for that. Okay, so let's do a first start now. Got the ground wire in. That was the stupidest thing for me. So symptom was I heard a lot of clicking down here. I had a couple lights that are on and off coming in here, so I suspected a ground. I looked at the old harness and I saw that was actually a ground. So good strong fuel pump prime that we're hearing. Let's go for a first start. Hey, it's a little rough. Check engine lights on. We gotta still bleed coolant and do that other stuff, but hey, she starts, she runs. I'm happy. Well, she wasn't too bad. It fought me a little bit, but that's to be expected. But yeah, that's about it. Didn't take too many specialty tools. Zero specialty tools at all. That's all I used. Everything was just spread out on the ground, but pry bars for sure helped. Sockets, just shallow deep metrics, and I had a 1/4-inch drive set. I did have to go into my 1/2-inch drive stuff just for like a 17 and a 19, I think, for the engine mounts, just because I wanted to torque them up really nice. And I used a 1/2-inch breaker bar there as well. So everything that you guys should have to tackle this. If this helps anybody out, let me know. If this video is kind of dog shit and you didn't like anything about it, or some stuff you didn't like about it, let me know. Leave a like if it helped. I appreciate that. And thanks a lot.